Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is the Series 7 Guru, aka Dean Tenney, coming to you from my studio off-grid, undisclosed location with our office hour every other Wednesday. If you're a paid student, you're welcome to this free office hour every other Wednesday. I moved it to 5:30 so more people are off work and can participate if they choose to. I'm not going to check and make sure. I know Daniel for sure is a paid student. Sometimes I'll offer it to people in social media as kind of a scholarship. And we also do a drawing. So here's our first question. This is from the Kaplan Q Bank. We will help you with any question from any vendors. It's easier if it's Kaplan because I can bring it up backstage because Kaplan, with my 15% discount code at checkout, Guru15, you can get a Kaplan Q Bank, and then I give them a commercial. And for that, they give us free look at Kaplan content. All right, let's get started on this question. Which of the following would be the most useful information for an investment advisor rep attempting to determine the ability of a client to have the necessary funding to purchase an investment with a $25,000 minimum entry level? So we need 25 grand and we need that now. So your tax bracket would have nothing to do with it. What you made and what you're paying in taxes doesn't give me 25 grand today. Your income tax return doesn't tell me what you got 25 grand. Cash flow would be the money you got coming in. What I'm going to be looking for is on the asset side of your balance sheet, current assets totaling $25,000. The balance sheet is testable on two levels. It's testable on fundamental analysis, but it's also testable as it relates to a customer. I say for me to do a really good job for you over time, Daniel, I need to know a lot about you. The more I know about you, the better I'm going to be at determining suitability. I think a nice place to start is where you're at currently financially. I'd like to take a snapshot as of September 11th, 2024, and see where we're at. Could you tell me about your current assets, cash, or things you plan to turn to cash within 12 months? Can you tell me about your long-term assets, your house, your car, your retirement plans? Could you tell me about your current liabilities, things that need to be paid within the next 12 months? Can you tell me about your long-term liabilities, your mortgage, your car loan? And what that is, classical balance sheet equation, very testable. Assets minus liabilities equals net worth. And maybe we want to revisit this. If we were a publicly held corporation, we would revisit this every quarter. Maybe we do it every 6 months or so. Daniel, did you know which one you preferred? I think the best miss, it's still a miss, is cash flow statement. Unless you're blessed. I mean, I'm pretty blessed and, I might be able to bring in 25 grand in a month, but for most folks, that's not it. Was that your miss? Do you recall, Daniel, if that was your miss? You there, Daniel? Not, oh, well, you don't have to participate if you don't want to.
Yeah, I did. I put a cash flow statement because I thought that's what you need to see if you could afford the month, like a monthly payment for
Well,
something.
no, it says 25,000. It's a lump sum, right? 25 grand.
Okay.
Right. So that's why you missed it, but that's a good miss. I wouldn't beat yourself up on that one. Also, when we see questions about joint tens with rights or survivorship, should we look for that as for married couples? No, I have it with my mama's account, so she doesn't have it on my account. It doesn't have to be spouses. That's where we usually see it. We usually do see it with spouses, but it doesn't have to necessarily be spouses. Max gain, max loss. Did you see? I just posted a video on a combination. Um, did you see that? Or maybe I didn't post that yet. Hold on, let me
I
see.
haven't seen it, no, but I
Okay.
didn't look too far. I
Okay.
apologize.
I just posted it. So let's just do it here and then I'll post it early. Maybe I've got it unlisted. I make videos and then sometimes I don't post them right away. So a combination is just a straddle. Let's get rid of this with different strike prices, right? So a straddle with different strike prices is called a combination. And we have two versions of it. We have a long straddle and we have a short straddle. We have long straddles and we have short straddles, just the same as we do with combinations. I'm muting. If you don't have a question, I'm muting you so we can. Don't pay any attention to that. Boom. Cancel. Okay. Anyway, so just like a long straddle, a long combination has unlimited gain because you have that long call as part of that. Long calls have unlimited gain. You have just like a straddle, long straddle, Your maximum loss is the premiums, and your break even is you total the premiums, you add it to the call, subtracted from the put. The only strategy in which you have two break evens on Series 7 are straddles and straddles with different strike price call combinations. Short combination, same thing as a short straddle. You have unlimited loss because of the naked call that's the upside. You also have maximum gain as the premiums collected. And the break evens would be the same. Total premiums plus or minus. So
Recording in progress.
again, if you're not, I'm trying to find you're not involved here, you need to mute yourself. So mute all. Let me see. Mute all. There we go. Okay, so that's a combination. Calculating accrued interest on bonds. Calculating accrued interest. Can we turn on the voice and the camera? You should be able to, James. I'm not restricting you from doing so. All right, so let's get a whiteboard. Again, please mute your mic if you are not involved in talking.
Hey, Dean, can you hear me? I just wanted to check in.
Yeah, there you go. I just muted you though. Unless you got something to say, stay muted. All right, so here we go. Let's say that I buy $100,000 worth of 100M of Ford Motor Company debentures that pay 8%. And remember, that's the nominal yield. So that's going to pay me $8,000 in annual interest. And let's say these are, let's say they're J&J bonds. That means they pay interest January and July. And let's suppose that I sell these to you on Thursday. You're the buyer, I'm the seller. I sell it to you on Thursday, September 12th. That's tomorrow. That's called the trade date. That's when we agree to terms. So trade date is when we agree to terms. It's kind of like buying a piece of real estate. We agree to terms and we enter into escrow. And then at the end of the escrow period, you give me the title and I give you the money. And do we get to renegotiate in that process? We certainly do not. I can't come to you and say, hey, apartment buildings have changed in value and I want to renegotiate. Reneging is bad. It's trying to renegotiate after you've agreed to terms. That's a big no-no. Right. Settlement is when ownership actually changes hands. The Uniform Practice Code, test questions, standardizes practices within the securities industry. And regular way settlement, very testable. We always assume people are doing business the regular way. That's why it's called regular way settlement. There are irregular ways to settle trades, but we assume everybody is doing business the regular way. And so if we do this trade on Thursday, September 12th, settlement is going to be Friday, September 13th. That's when ownership actually changes hands. Friday, September 13th. You're the buyer, I'm the seller. And I say to you, hey, listen, you're going to get a check on January 1st from Ford for $4,000. And not all of that $4,000 belongs to you because these were my bonds all of July. These were my bonds all of August. And these were my bonds part of September. And you say, Dean, when I get the check, I'll send you the pro rata share. I say, well, hold on. This is a transaction, not a relationship. Why don't we just right now figure out how much of that $4,000 belongs to me? That way, when you get the check, you can just keep it. You can get on with your life and I can get on with my life. And you say, well, I don't want to do it that way. I say, well, too bad. The Uniform Practice Code says buyers are going to pay sellers the dollar amount of the accrued interest. This is a transaction, not a relationship. So besides the price we've negotiated for the bonds, you also asked me the dollar amount, owe me the dollar amount of the accrued interest. Now, when we came up with the Uniform Practice Code, we didn't want our high talent men and women to have to remember nursery rhymes and knuckle humps about how many days have September. So in the Uniform Practice Code, every month has 30 days. So when I got paid on July 1st, that was for up to, but not including July 1st. So you, the buyer, owe me 30 days of accrued interest from July. The first number is always going to be either a 30 or a 16. If these were J&J 15 bonds, they're not. What if they were? When I got paid on July 15th, that would have been for up to, but not including July 15th. So you'd owe me 16. So that first day is 30 or 16. You owe me for all of August. You owe me for up to, but not including settlement. It makes sense that you don't owe me for settlement because settlement is when they become your bonds and you're entitled to the interest going forward from there. And so you owe me 12 days in September. So you owe me a total of 72 days of accrued interest. Now, another way you could do this is I have a shortcut. If you want to use my shortcut, you would take settlement, which in this case is 9/13, September 13th, and you would subtract the last time the bonds paid interest, which in this case is July 1st, 7/1. And if you want to use my shortcut, that's how you would do it. I can't help you with the math. 1 from 13 is 12. And 7 from 9 is 2. And we come up with 2 months and 12 days. Now, of that $4,000, remember that $4,000 represents a 180-day period. So, we're talking about $4,000 semi-annually. So I'm going to divide that by 180 days. And that means you, the buyer, owe me, the seller, simple function calculator, just like you get on the test, 4,000 divided by 180. You owe me $22.22 in interest per day. Because that's, what I make on these bonds each day. And so you need to add to the check, besides the price we've negotiated for the bonds, you're going to need to add to that $22.22 times 72 days. And you owe me of that $4,000, you owe me $1,599.84. You owe me $1,599.84. That is how much of that $4,000 belongs to me. And you say, hey, well, when I get the $4,000, I'll send it to you. What do I say to that idea? Absolutely not. Now, another term I'd be aware of is what's called trade flat. Some bonds trade flat, meaning there is no calculation of accrued interest. Anybody know some bonds that trade flat? No calculations of accrued interest?
Zero coupons.
Right on, zero coupons. Anybody know another one? Income or adjustment bonds trade flat. Because remember, they only pay interest when and if earned. Bonds and default trade flat. What should you be aware of whenever you see 3 of a thing? What do they love to do on the test when there's 3 of a thing?
Accept questions.
Love those. That's one of their all-time favorite things to do, right? Okay, so there's an example. Now, do I think you're going to, I don't think you're really going to have to do a very low probability. You're going to have to actually calculate number of days of accrued interest, low probability, but you certainly need to know accrued interest is paid by the buyer to the seller. You need to know for corporates and munis, it's 30-day months. You need to know that government, U.S. government securities are goofy. They're goofy because they use an actual calendar. So it's mainly recognition. But, we got to embrace practical application because with practical application questions, there's no interpretation. So, Daniel, we had that question. I told you I thought that was a good miss that you had. But that was a question where, there was an interpretation necessary to answer. And who knows if you're going to get the interpretation correct. So these are good questions because we know that, there's not an interpretation of what the right answer is. You just simply get it right or you do not. And then Rachel, is it Rachel Barachi?
Rachel's fine.
Yeah, okay, Rachel. So as soon as we're over with this office hour, I will publish the combination video.
Okay, perfect.
So the
Thank
little
you.
video I did, and I'll go ahead and put it out there for you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. What else do we got? Who gets what for an underwriting? Very, very testable. I certainly have, again, I try and tell people to use the search bar, but I don't mind doing them over and over again, but you can put that in the search bar. And I'm going to do it here on the whiteboard, just telling you there's whole videos on underwriting. Just put underwriting, spread, whatever in the search bar. Lots of stuff will come up. Before I hit the clear this whiteboard, any questions before I move on to an underwriting spread? Okay, so here we go. The spread is the difference between, test question number 1, is the difference between what the issuer receives and the investors pay. And so let's just boom, boom, boom. And we'll look at muni underwriting because those are, more testable than corporate underwritings. And so let's say the issuer is going to receive $990 and we're going to sell this at par. For test purposes, bonds get sold at par. So we're doing a bond underwriting here. The investor pays. So test question number 1 is, what do we call the difference between what the issuer receives and the public pays? What do we call the difference between those two?
The spread.
Right on, the spread. Spread always means difference, by the way. So what is the spread in the underwriting we're working on?
1 point.
Oh, you sound like a player. Yeah, bond guys are never going to say $10. So you're absolutely right. If you want to sound like a player, you're going to say 1 point, which is indeed $10. So there is $10 to be made on every bond sold. And, we have what's called a syndicate, and syndicate has members. So there's participants. We have a managing underwriter. Managing underwriter is kind of like first among equals. Syndicate, right? Like the Soprano syndicate. Am I dating myself? Tony Soprano is the manager. He says, I don't care who does what, the Soprano syndicate. I need my taste. We call that our management fee. Tony calls it his taste. Then we have members of the syndicate, underwriters. And then we have wimps. No, I'm joking. We have people who don't want to be at risk for unsold securities, who will sign up under syndicate members, and we call them members of the selling group. And boom, selling group members are not members of the syndicate. They're actually signing up. We'll go over this at length in just a sec. All right, so, I'm the manager. I've got the exclusive contract with the issuer. You can't get these bonds without coming through me. And you're one of my members of my syndicate. You say, Dean, what can I have the bonds for? I say, you can take down bonds at 991.25. You can take down bonds at 991.25. I'm going to make an eighth, and you need to be able to put that into dollars. 1 divided by 8 times a bond point, we find out that's $1.25. And it doesn't matter who sells a bond. As the manager, my firm gets the management fee on every bond sold. And I'm going to sell some of the bonds myself through my own distribution network. Test question, typically the smallest individual component of the spread is the management fee. And again, I'm going to sell some. The only person going to make the entire point is the managing underwriter of the bonds they actually sell themselves. If Tony does his own deal, right, he doesn't kick down, he keeps the whole spread. I saw an episode where him and Chris, his nephew, did a deal, and he said, are we going to split this with the syndicate? He goes, I don't kick down, people kick up. So the only person going to make the entire spread here is, the manager. All right, let's say UBS is a member of the syndicate. UBS is a member of the syndicate, and they're taking down bonds at 991.25. Well, what they have to decide is how many of the bonds do they want to sell, UBS, through their own distribution network? Or do they want to build their own bracket? Do they want to sign up people under them? Do they want to build a bracket? Now, the bonds they sell themselves, they would make what we call the total takedown. The total takedown is not an individual component of the spread. It's two. And so here the total takedown is 7/8. And again, we need to be able to turn that into dollars, and that would be 875. 7 divided by 8. Now, if you build your own bracket, you can sign up more people. So maybe I say to UBS, I say, hey, do you want to help selling the bonds, or are you going to sell all the bonds you're taking down yourself? And they said, well, no, I could use some help. If I got some help, maybe I could sell some more. I said, well, I was talking to Fidelity, and they certainly want to help us sell, but they don't want to be at risk for unsold securities. So why don't you put them in your selling group? Your selling group. So these syndicate members are going to form their own selling groups. And so UBS calls Fidelity and says, hey, manager told me you might be interested in taking down some bonds. And they said, we can let you take down bonds at 995. So again, we got to be able to turn that into money. And so in this example, UBS is making 375 on the bonds their selling group sells. That's called the additional takedown. The additional takedown. I think stocks are easy. In stocks, that's the underwriter concession. And then this is called the selling concession. And this is a 0.5 point. And we got to turn that into $5. And boom. And test question, be careful what you're being asked. This is typically the largest individual component of the spread. Be careful. The total takedown is not the largest individual component. That's the largest component, but it's not individual. Okay, so compensation. They do ask about compensation. So let's say you're a member of the selling group and you say you're going to sell 1 million bonds. So on the test, they say your firm is a member of the selling group in a municipal underwriting, and you're going to sell $1 million worth of bonds. And what they like to ask is, what's the compensation? So, you're going to say, okay, well, let's just take 1 million and divide that by par to figure out how many bonds that is. And that is 1,000 bonds. So we divide that by par. And we find out that's 1,000 bonds. Or 10,000 bonds. Let me just make sure I did the math right. 1 million divide by 1,000. To be honest with you, I'd probably say, come on, are you a wimp? Don't you want to sell more bonds than that? That seems like not a lot of bonds, but let's see. 1,000 bonds, yep. So that's going to be 1,000 bonds. And then we would times that on the test by $5. And you would tell me that your firm made $5,000. That would be your compensation.
I have a question.
Yeah, and you're not at risk for unsold securities. The other thing I would know is selling group members are not on unsold securities. Yeah, I'll take up your question in just a sec. So let's just use this as an exhibit. And let's say I say your firm made an 1/8 on a bond some other firm sold. Who was your firm? You'd say managing underwriter. If I say your firm made a 0.5 point, it was not at risk for unsold securities, you would say C, selling group member. I say your firm made 3/8 on a bond that someone else sold, some other firm was at risk for unsold securities, you would say underwriter. If I say your firm made 7/8 on a bond your firm sold, 7/8, that would be an underwriter, right? Your firm made a point, you would tell me A, managing underwriter. So you need to know the components of the spread and the compensation. So yes, question.
When they ask you in the test, I know the answer when you have to minus the 5 out of the 375, when you take the largest minus the additional takedown. Who are you in that calculation?
Well, remember, you're either one of these parties. So the person getting the additional takedown is an underwriter, a member of the syndicate. Underwriter, but those are synonymous terms, by the way. So this 3/8 to collect that, you are an underwriter or a member of the syndicate. By the way, I would build my own bracket as a manager. Let's say I'm the manager. I'm Bank of America. And I call Schwab. I say, hey, Schwab, Bank of America here. Would you like to get some bonds from us? You're not a member of the syndicate. And they say, yeah. And they say, what can I have bonds for? I say, you can have bonds for $9.95. And you say, well, Dean, you're giving bonds to other folks, other firms at $991.25. I say, yeah, but those are members of my syndicate, Schwab, and you are not a member of my syndicate. The only people who can get bonds for $991.25 are members of the syndicate. In that example, I make two components of the spread. I get my eighth for being the manager, and I get my 3/8 for being an underwriter. So I made there two components. Remember, Bank of America, I'm going to sell some of the bonds myself. On those bonds, I'm going to make everything. Right? I'm going to get the only person who can collect all components of the spread are the manager. Right? You don't need to cancel the overtime session because that's all right. Oh, I see what you're saying. There is a cap. Thank you. I will delete that because that will open up the spot. I was going to say there's no money changing hands on the free stuff like this. So there's, would I prefer you, but it is capped. Did we meet the cap tonight? Let's see how many people we got. Yeah, we got the cap was met tonight. So I don't want to get like 15, 20 people in these things because then it just isn't really productive. All right. Any questions on this before I clear this whiteboard?
No, I'm thinking I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let's see what's next here. For investment advisory contracts, is prepayment of fees included in the contract? Well, if it can, but remember, if I charge prepayment of the fees, I have to tell you how much you're going to get back and under what circumstances, right? So prepayment, I wouldn't take prepayment because it also, Daniel, could trigger like a balance sheet. And so my customers sometimes get upset. They say, can you prepay? It's the way to think of it as I think the best way to think of prepayment is it's a contingent liability, right? Because I'm actually collecting money for services not rendered. So for example, when people book on my tutoring page, they have to prepay. And so actually that's a contingent liability to me because I've not yet delivered the tutoring, right? And so you have the risk that, you hit the Zoom link and Dean doesn't show up, right? So that's how I think of it. I know that's helpful, but it's basically about refund provisions, Daniel. A zero coupon. Want to ask your advice. I have my exam scheduled for September 24th. Been using STC, scoring 80s. That's fantastic. Recently purchased Kaplan as well. I was wondering if you think it's worth to read the Kaplan book. I would just go over the questions first, James, and then if you feel like you need to go back and hear a different voice, then I would do that. Assuming you've already had the STC book, you're getting 80s. I jump right into the questions. Now, remember, when you change test prep vendors, you always drop a little bit as you adjust to the phraseology. I just was tutoring a guy today on 24, and he was using past perfect. And then just to give him a different voice, we were using Kaplan. And, he was kind of, saying, well, the phraseology is a little different. I go, well, yeah, but that's okay. I mean, you want to see it said different ways to kind of confirm it. So I would jump right in. And if you need to go back and read some more. What kind of questions do you on Head and Shoulders? Very testable. Head and Shoulders is a charting pattern. So let's clear this board here. And that's about technical analysis. And that's about charting. And we definitely should have know about the support in a chart and the resistance. And here's a Head and Shoulders panel. Let's see how Dean does on I'm not going to give up my day job, obviously. So there's a Head and Shoulders. Oh, it smoothed it out for me. That's kind of cool. And this test question is a signal of a reversal. This is the end of the bull and the beginning of the bear. The end of the bull and the beginning of the bear. So that means we have an inverted Head and Shoulders. So Head and Shoulders is not a shampoo you use to take a bath in the stock market. No, no, no. It's a signal of a reversal. So we have this one. And then we have this one. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see. Right, that's an inverted Head and Shoulders, and that is the end of the bear and the beginning of the bull. On the chart, this going this way is time, and going this way is price. So what kind of questions do you? I just gave you the answer to that. That's the question, and that's the answer on the test. Green shoe clause, I don't think you'll see that on 7, but on 24. When I say to an issuer, I'm selling 1 million shares at 10, let's say, or 10 million shares at 10. So we're doing a 10 million share offering at $10. That's 100 million. And I say to the issuer, I say, listen, I have institutional customers who might want the stock. And I'd like to be able to expand the deal. So Fidelity calls and says, hey, Dean, we did give an indication of interest for 1 million shares. I say, yeah, thank you so much. I said, but Dean, then we find out that T. Rowe Price has 1 million indication for 1 million. I go, yeah. And Fidelity says, well, hey, if T. Rowe's doing 1, we want 2. We'd like another 1 million. And I say, okay, let me exercise my green shoe. So my green shoe allows me to take that 10 million shares to 11.5 million. It gives the underwriter the ability to expand the deal by 15%. And what I'm going to do in that example is I'm going to short the 1 million shares to Fidelity, and then I'm going to cover by, using my green shoe to get the 1 million shares I just sold to Fidelity. I think it's more of a 24 question than a 7 question. Joint tenants with rights or survivorship versus tenants in entirety. Testable distinctions. Well, yeah, the tenants in entirety, I think it's low probability on customer counts. I don't even think I cover it, but it's for real estate between spouses, and that's not true of joint tenants with rights or survivorship. Way, way more testable. Okay, let's see. We got a Kaplan question. Let's hope I didn't put away the Kaplan Q bank. Boom. 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 I did not. All right. Woohoo. Can you guys see my thing? Is this 66? Let me bring back up the chat. Rachel, is that a 7? Oh, series 7. Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't see that.
Yeah, sorry, I was late.
Yeah, that's no problem. I just didn't see it. Series 7. And then remember the free look is because, I'm supposed to do a commercial for Kaplan. Yeah, if you're watching Kaplan, I know that was a pretty poor commercial, but hey. 1564204. A foreign currency. Well, this is how did they get that's not a break point, that's a break even.
Oh, sorry, break even.
Yeah. So I'm long the Swiss franc. So that means I'm thinking good things about my Swiss friends, right? They're going to sell lots of Rolexes like this, cuckoo clocks. What else do they make? Chocolate. The Swiss are neat people. One of my best nights ever was in Switzerland. Who would have thunk it, right? Drinking Cuban rum and smoking Cuban cigars in Switzerland. It seems like kind of a weird place to be doing that. Anyways, 0.81. The investor buys 4. Now, remember, that's kind of a trick because break-evens are expressed on a per unit basis. They're not expressed based on the number of contracts. So we don't need that. Anyways, a July 80 put and to hedge the break-even would be. So what you're going to do is take, just like you would any other thing, right? Strike price plus premium, right? Strike price plus premium. So the premium paid was the as you see here, 0.81 is the strike, and you're going to add the premium to that, and you're going to get the break even of 0.8225. Now your question is, how do we get that? As you move the decimal 2 spots to the left, right? So on this 1.25, that goes over 2 spots because that's how they're expressed in units, right? So this decimal goes 1 and then 1 over, so 0.0125.
And that's just automatic with these foreign. Okay.
Yep. 2 decimal spots. I think it's unlikely you're going to get too many. The ones you're going to get on your 7 are very basic because you're going to get 20 plus option questions. They don't have a lot of time to mess around with non-equity options. If you go to the channel, for people watching on the replay, I'll put this in there. I didn't even think it was really worth me making a lecture on foreign currency options. So what I did was I just pulled down a bunch of them from the Kaplan Q bank, and I did 20 because you're going to get 20 in total. You're not getting that at all in foreign currencies, but I did them. And they're mainly recognition. So I doubt you would have to do this break even, but you should definitely know EPIC, exporters buy puts, U.S. exporters buy puts, importers buy calls. You should definitely know yield-based options have a direct relationship with interest rates. These are what we call non-equity options. It's a whole category of the test called non-equity options, where the underlying interest isn't a stock. The underlying interest is an index or yield or or foreign currency, whatever the case may be, right? I would know index options settle in cash. I would definitely know that you're going to hedge it more in common than they have differences, right? So we don't know if this person is speculating on the Swiss franc or hedging, but the strategies are the same. What I mean by this is I just told you this person is bullish on the Swiss franc. How does Dean know he's bullish? Because he's long a call, right? Or no, I can take it back. He's puts, my bad. He's bearish on the Swiss franc. Guys, right? He's long a put. So same strategies. All right. Anything else? Okay. Deep recourse and non-recourse notes. I'm teaching a Wednesday evening class on DPPs. It's more of a issue of test vendors than it is the actual test. All test prep vendors go total overboard on partnerships. You know, there's only 2 or 3 questions and they're pretty straightforward. I think I know I'm going to answer the question, Ron. So no worries. I'm going to answer the question. But I was going to say, you know, when people say, should I read the book? I always say, yes, you should read the book cover to cover. And the same person will ask me like 2 days later, should I read the book? Yes. Should I read the book? And, you know, about the 6th time they ask that, I get weak and I go, okay, you don't need to read the margin and the partnership chapters. Because all test prep vendors, oh my God, if you're doing self-study, based on how many pages vendors spend on both margin and partnerships, you'd think, oh my God, this must be important. And it's really not. Okay, so the Golden State Warriors are a partnership. Joe Lacob is the general partner, and the partnership bought the Warriors for $400 million. You know, and at the time that it was 2010, I sat on the floor. Nobody asked me if I wanted to be a limited partner, but you know, Joe Lacob got 20 of his friends, and let's say he did, he, said hi to me when he bought the Warriors, and, I didn't know who he was at the time, but I was sitting there in the VIP area, and I didn't know who he was. He comes in, he goes, what do you think about the new ownership group? I said, well, I'm not a big fan. I said, I don't like this partnership model. I was hoping Larry Ellison would win this auction, buy the Warriors for 400 million, and he's got billions behind that. And, this idea of me and my 20 friends coming up with four, I'm going on and on and on. And finally he goes, Dean, I'm Joe Lacob. I'm the general partner of that ownership group. But I go, okay, I got to walk that back. In a gazillion years, never would he, would Chris Cohan, the former owner, ask me what I thought about anything. Anyways, let's say my investment to invest in the Warriors as limited partner is 20 million. So I need to come up with 20 million. So I say, hey, Joe, here's 2 million. And I want to get you, give you a recourse note for 18 million. So I want you to go to the bank and borrow $18 million on my behalf to make that investment, top it off to 20 million. Now, what recourse means is if the Warriors, the partnership, can't pay back that loan, the bank has recourse to me. And that means my cost base, and here's the answer to the question. I doubt you're going to see it tomorrow, Rana, but the answer to that question is my cost basis in the Warriors is 20 million. Same exact example, except now I say, hey, Joe, 20 million, here's 2 million. And here's a non-recourse. I want you to borrow on my behalf 18 million non-recourse. Non-recourse means if the investment fails, they can't come after me. And that example, Rana, my cost base is 2 million. So if it's a recourse note, it adds to my cost base. If it's a non-recourse note, it does not. The only exception to that would be real estate. All right. Anything else? All right. Well, I always say, remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch, yard by yard, your exam is hard. I will see you for the next office hour. Remember, office hours are free for paid students every other Wednesday. And the other thing that's free is the live stream overtimes. And I think, was it you, Rachel, who said you're not going to be able to make it? And I'll delete that. But to be honest with you, if you're participating, I'll make a space for you. So, if it caps, it disappears from that. And if you're, that motivated, just let me know and I'd be more than happy to send you the link and let you in. So, all right. Well, my family's going to be very happy that we're in it and we're out. All right, everybody. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Sorry to bother. Uh-oh, Rana, you got one more question?
I just want to ask you, it's not a question about something in particular. So I'm testing tomorrow. I followed your advice. I bought Test Geek Brian's.
Yeah, Brian's excellent. Spot on.
I did the test yesterday. I got a 73.6.
Perfect. That's fine. Don't get wobbly.
No, I'm just, do you have anything, like, I'm gonna go over your 60-minute video
Yeah,
and
do the
your
60 minutes, do the 60 minutes.
equations.
You got 2 videos you can do. And remember, it's more about getting you into the right rhythm, your right circadian rhythm flow, because it's not natural flow. The 2 videos are Series 7 and 60 minutes and Series 7 tip, tricks, and memory aids.
Okay.
Tips, tricks, and memory aids. I to be honest with you, first do no harm, right? So, but you can watch both of those tonight and in the morning. That's about, you're into it for like an hour and a half tonight, an hour and a half in the morning. I don't think it's going to make a difference, but I'm hoping it will get you into the flow. It's kind of like a Zen, I'm hoping. I mean, it's hard to have a Zen flow state with these tests, but
Do you think it would be bad to answer like a couple of option questions just so I can make sure if there's some tonight, or should I just take
make
it
sure the
easy?
most important thing. Let me do the 2 most important things. I want you to do whatever makes you comfortable. These are the 2 most important things. The 2 most important things is to be rested. You need to be at your mental best as much as you can tomorrow. You need to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Because, boy, I don't know about you, but when I'm tired, my reading skills are diminished. So you want to get as much rest as you can. Second most important thing, you've got to be confident in the execution of your study plan because it's over. So you're where you're at. You're right where you need to be. 73 in Test Geek is fine. So you got to be confident in the execution of your study plan. You got to be confident in yourself. Most important, Rana, you got to be confident in your answers tomorrow. Being confident in your answers tomorrow is 10 points. I'm not being facetious. It's anecdotal, but confidence. I was doing a guy today and he's getting ready to test Friday on his 24. I said, listen, if you're going to go down, man, go down in flames. Don't be, well, I think it's B. B, God damn it. So that's the kind of attitude you want to have. So if you can put on that persona, Arana, again, I'm not being facetious. Tomorrow morning, I want you to go into the mirror and I want you to say in the mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest Series 7 test taker of all? Rana, Rana, Rana. Woo! Right? Then you're going to go down there and kick butt, right?
Thank you so much. I'm just
You're
like, pre-test nerves, so that's it. I just
Some
really
people
want to
do.
pass.
I get it. I get it. You know what? I think, Rana, where you're going to get over the pre-test nerves, I think, is, I don't know about you, but you're going to really quickly tomorrow, you're going to get probably 4 or 5 questions deep. You're going to get a question you know the right answer to. You go, all right, something on this exam I know, right? It might
Yeah.
even be one of Brian's questions. Brian's questions can be pretty spot on. So you're going to
Yeah,
say,
the only reasons the ones that I got wrong is because I did it late at night, and that's the only time I had to
please
do
don't.
it.
All right.
And
Well,
it's
I
like,
get it. I get it, Ron. I feel sorry because I say, why'd you do that? And then you told me you had to. It's the only time I get it. So
yeah.
it is what it is. That's a great score. So I
No,
told you.
I did your Kaplan test the last one you downloaded, and I got an 80 with
There
the
you
one
go.
that
You
you
should be
did.
fine. You should be fine. Not you, but I had a guy who was scoring very well and I was teasing him. I said, listen, if you don't make it, you don't need a tutor. You need a sports psychologist because that's not a knowledge deficit problem. That's something else. It's something else. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
okay. I'll be with you. Now you owe me a call though, because I'll be with you in spirit. So send
No,
me an
I'm gonna text you so I don't bother
Okay.
you, whatever the
Well, you can
outcome
text me.
is.
Well, I'm always looking for updates on tests. So that feel free to bother me with an update like that.
Thank you, Dean. You're the
I'm going
best.
to be sending you good energy tomorrow. What time are you testing?
At 12 p.m. our time, so it's 8:16. I'm Central.
I love it. I love it. So, all right. Now, I wanna
Not
hear-
too
I'll tell
early.
you know what we do for successful test takers, right?
No. Ding, 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 ding.
I
Okay.
ring the bell. So I'm giving you your bell. We ring the bell for testing victory. So I'm giving you an early bell ring.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Dean.
for
You're the best.
Okay. Anything else? Last call.
No,
Thank you,
no.
Dean.
Okay.
Thank
See you
you.
next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.